What's up, everyone? This is Marshall from A1 Exotics, and today we'll be going over my top 5 bearded dragon morphs. So, for those of you who may not know, a bearded dragon morph, or a morph for that matter, is a physical mutation of the animal. In this case, in Tomato, she doesn't have a morph. She's a wild type morph. But she does have a sandfire red color to her. But a morph, like I said, is a physical mutation. For today, we'll be going over my top 5 favorite morphs in bearded dragons. So at number 5, we have the Leatherback morph. The Leatherback morph is one of the most common morphs out there. You'll find them pretty much in pet stores and definitely at shows and online everywhere. To me, it's one of the most classic bearded dragon morphs. The Leatherback morph is defined as, the back of the bearded dragon is leathery like. It's very smooth. The scales aren't very prominent up there. The Leatherback morph does have some other different types of Leatherback morphs, like the Italian Leatherback morph, where it's very, very smooth. But overall, it's a good morph if you want to get into different bearded dragons. So at number 4, we have the Hypo morph. The Hypo morph is characterized by the animal having clear nails. And on Tomato, I don't know if you can see, but she does not. She has these black nails. They're not clear, so if you have a beardy at home that has black nails, they're not Hypo. If you go to a pet store and you see what they call a fancy bearded dragon, more often than not, they're probably a Hypo bearded dragon. Another cool characteristic of the Hypo morph is that the bearded dragon's color is a lot lighter. As you know, with wild types, they're more darker browns and tans and things like that. The Hypo melanistic morph is a co-dominant trait, which means, like in Tomato here, she's het for Hypo, and she was paired with a Hypo. So because the male carries the trait, and she has it recessively, where she doesn't show it, half of the babies are going to be Hypo. So that's what co-dominant and dominant means. We'll dive more into that in later videos. So for right now, we'll transition to our next morph. So third on the list is the translucent morph. The translucent morph is another co-dominant trait in bearded dragons. The defining characteristics of the translucent morph is, the bearded dragon has a translucent hue to it. The scales are almost see-through, and in babies, you can almost see their organs. They give off like a blackish, purplish color, but as they age, the scales tend to get color. You don't really see it as much. But another characteristic of the translucent morph is that their eyes are black. It's a very cool morph. They almost look alienish. But not all translucents have the black eyes. So if you have a translucent that doesn't have black eyes, it doesn't necessarily mean that he or she is not translucent. So at number 2 on the list, we had the Whiplets morph. The Whiplets morph is a fairly new morph to the bearded dragon trade. The name originates from South Africa, because the color of the Whiplets morph resembles a wine from that area. It's kind of a brownish tan color. The Whiplets morph is patternless. So like on Tomato here, she has all these different markings and patterns. On Whiplets, there's no patterns. So if you think you have a Whiplets and there's no patterns, then you have a Whiplets. The Whiplets morph is a co-dominant gene in that in order to produce them, you have to have either parents being het for it or have a visual for it. But you wouldn't want to pair a visual to het or visual to visual for that matter, because the babies born won't be healthy. So number 1 on the list is The Neuromorph. The Neuromorph is a very, very cool morph. It's personally my favorite morph in the Bearded Dragon world. It's a relatively new morph. It came about 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, somewhere around there. But what really defines a Zero is that they're a complete white down their back, and they only have 2 black marks on their shoulder pads. And of course, you can combine the Neuromorph with a Hypo Trans, and then you can get a Zero, Hypo Trans Zero, and they're this really cool, almost like a gummy. And I'll insert a picture right here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. We actually have some Hypo Trans Zeros that we produce, and they're really, really beautiful. The Neuromorph is a co-dominant trait, which means that you have to pair a head-to-head to produce them. Same thing with the Whiplets morph. You don't want to do heads to visuals or visuals to visuals because the babies can come out sickly. No one want that. So for our audible mentions, I have 2. There's really no reason why they didn't make it onto the list. Well, actually, no, I lied. One of them didn't for a reason, but I'll explain that in a second. But our first is the Neuromorph. The Neuromorph is a unique morph in that it's characterized as, because if you look at Tomato's scales, her scales are kind of, they're symmetrical. They don't really shoot off in other directions. Unlike a Neuromorph, where they're asymmetrical, where they kind of project in different directions, as well the scales. The Neuromorph is a dominant mutation in that you don't need a het for it. There's no such thing as a het donor. So if you have a donor with a normal, 50% of the babies will be donor. And our last honorable mention is the Paradox morph. Well, no, I lied. The Paradox isn't a morph. It's a paradox, which means you can't really explain why it happens. There's no way to prove out a paradox. It's something that just happens. Now, if you have parents that are paradox and you breed them, the chances of getting paradoxes hatched out are a lot higher, but sometimes in a lot of people's collections, paradoxes just pop out of nowhere. Although if they were a morph, they're my favorite because, as you can see, I'll insert a picture right here. They come in all sorts of different colors. They look like koi fish and all these other crazy looking colors. But all in all, they're cool, really, really cool mutation. So I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us today. And if you have any more comments or questions, just let us know down in the comments below. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I'll link all that in the bottom so you can go scroll through a bunch of links. But this is Tomato. So if you have purchased a beardy from us in the past, more than likely this is your baby's mama right here. Tomato is a normal bearded dragon, but she is het hypo and het trans. She was paired this year with our male Leatherback, who is also het hypo and het trans. So we have some hypo babies, we have some Leatherbacks, we have some translucents, and we have a lot of different combos of them. If you want to look at our website, they're available, but they're awesome. Tomato likes climbing around on me. So I hope you enjoyed the video and stay tuned for more. Bye-bye.